start right away in order to save time. What is the motivation of this work? As you know, the financial situation of older adults affects substantially their quality of life. Just to put some examples, if you have money, you have access to better healthcare, you have access to better nutrition, and if you have financial problems, you might also suffer from mental health problems. And if you have money, you can also participate in more social activities or hobbies, just to put some examples. So financial situation is important. It's important during the whole life, but especially important also in older ages. When talking about financial situation, it's important to talk, or it's becoming even more important to talk about housing costs, since housing costs represent a major expenditure in older ages, and it's becoming even more, at least in Germany, due to the development in the housing prices. So that's why we take a look first how the housing cost burden has developed in Germany in the last 20 years approximately, and which are the socioeconomic groups that are more at risk of being financially overburdened by this housing cost. And this is what we do, or what we have done. The project is closed now. In this project, with my colleagues Alberto Lozano, Heribert Engsler, and Claudia Vogel, and financed by the Research Network on Old Age Security. The motivation of the project was this kind of picture. What we here see, these are the development of the rental prices since 2005, and this is the development of the pension amounts of the statutory pensions insurance. So as you see, the rental prices have been increasing since 2005 more than the pensions. And if we would plot here the prices of housing, of buying, it will be even more dramatic. So if you see this picture, then it's legitimate to ask, so is the money enough to afford housing in old ages? So what we do what we have done in the project is to take a look in the change over time, as I was saying. So are older people spending more money in housing now than 20 years ago, and which aspects of social inequality are behind that? So are there people who are struggling more with this increasing housing costs than others? And then we have added another dimension in the project, which is this life course dimension. So we have taken a look how housing costs develop with age. So it's not only older, it's also that housing costs develop with age for older groups. So we take a look at the development from age 50. So let's start by this some methodological details we use for this, the German socioeconomic panel, for the time period 93 to 2019. And what is important here is our main dependent variable is this housing cost burden, which is the monthly housing cost divided by the monthly net household income. So let me jump to the results. To this first aspect, how has the housing situation and the housing cost of older adults changed in the last 20 years? What we first see is that, I don't know if you know, I mean, Germany has been traditionally a country where the ownership rates have been quite low. But if we take a look at this graphic, we see that it has been changing a bit in the last 20 years. These are the ownership rates for older households, 60 plus, and this blue and green part, these are the ownership rates. So we see that they have been increasing in the last decades. So here we see that the ownership rate for this population group was in 93, 42%, and it has increased up to 55%. But of course, I was telling you that the important aspect of the project is the social inequality aspect. These ownership rates have not increased for everybody. So if we take a look at this graphic, we see the different income quintiles. So these are the ownership rates by income quintiles, and we see that the ownership rates are higher for the households where the income is higher. But what is interesting here is the development in this time. We see that for these quintiles, the ownership rates have been increasing, but for this quintile, these are the households with the lowest level of income, has remained stable. So we see here that the inequality between these groups is increasing. Why is this important to take a look at this difference between tenants and owners? This is important because, as you see in this graphic, there is this difference in the housing cost burden between both groups. We have this line here, these are the tenant households and these are the owners, and we see that the housing cost burden of the tenants is much higher than those of the owners. And this difference has been increasing during this time. So this is another important aspect of social inequality. So to this aspect, to this development with time, we see that ownership rate increases over time, but not for everybody. And housing cost burden is particularly high for tenants. And housing cost burden increases over time for tenants, but this is not the case for owners. So I jump quick to the other aspect. I was telling you we have introduced this life cost perspective in the analysis of the housing cost burden, and we have seen how it changes with age. So we had years before, now we have age. And we see that if we take a look, this is housing cost, average housing cost, and this is average income. We see that cost decrease a bit or decrease with time, but the biggest change is in income, right? So income changes a lot in this period or in these ages, and this is due to retirement. This means, due to this development, what we observe is that the housing cost burden increases with age. And what is also very interesting is that if we take a look, the housing of cost overburden, this is the risk of having to pay at least 40% of your income for housing, is also increasing with age. So we go from 7% to 13% at the age of 80. And also, we come to this graphic where we see the housing cost burden for tenants and homeowners, and we see again that the tenants have a higher housing cost burden, and this increases more with age than the ones of the owners. Okay, here you have the numbers. So just to this aspect of this longitudinal analysis of this life cost perspective, we see that the housing cost burden increases between the ages 60 and 65 and remains stable thereafter. The difference according to housing status increases in old age. And some important results of the project that I have not shown here in detail is that retirement and widowhood has also an important effect on the housing cost burden. So retirement increases housing cost burden and widowhood too. And this effect is stronger for tenants than for homeowners. So let me just finish by telling you why this kind of analysis is important. The first result or the first message that we have with our project is financial overburden due to housing is not a problem for everybody, right? I mean, it's in the media constantly this message like prices are going high, so this is a problem for everybody. This is not the case. But what is important is to see that there are socioeconomic groups that are more at risk of being overburdened, and that this situation for these vulnerable groups has worsened in the last decades due to the recent rent and housing prices. Why is this important? This is important because we need to identify the groups who are overburdened in order to design target policies, right? So it's not everybody that has a problem, so there are these groups which are at special risk and need to be targeted by the policy in order to alleviate their financial situation, since as we said at the beginning, the financial situation of older adults are very important in order to determine their quality of life. And this is how I want to end. Thank you very much for your attention.